Amazing discovery. Single dad CEO uncovers an incredible little girl sleeping on trash, the transformation that will change everything. Brian's heart raced as he exited the pitch meeting, adrenaline coursing through his veins. The conference room buzzed with a mixture of excitement and tension. He had sold his ambitious startup vision to investors, yet deep inside, a hollow feeling loomed. The relentless pressure to innovate hung over him like a dark cloud. He glanced at his phone, scanning a barrage of emails, insistent calls, and a photo of his daughter, Lily, smiling. She was growing up without him, and it gnawed at his conscience. The irony wasn't lost on him. While he prepared to launch a revolutionary tech product, he feared he might be losing the one thing that truly mattered: his connection with Lily. He hurried home through the chaotic streets of San Francisco, thoughts swirling in his mind. Without warning, something caught his eye. A dirty, small girl huddled behind a pile of trash, her fragile figure barely noticeable amid the discarded belongings. He hesitated, caught between urgency and instinct. Why was she there? As he approached, her wide, curious eyes locked onto his. She couldn't have been more than 5, a spectral vision against the backdrop of grime. "Please, sir, I'm cold," she whispered, and something inside him cracked. This little girl was an orphan, surviving in abandoned buildings nearby. He felt a pang of empathy mixed with responsibility. His internal clock screamed that he had deadlines looming, deals to finalize. But the sight of her innocent face triggered something he had long ignored. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. Brian looked away from the girl and swallowed. He could feel the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. If he took her in, it would change everything. He could barely manage the demands of his tech company and be there for Lily. Yet, each day at the startup was a war. Rival investors, unyielding competitors, and criticisms always lurked in the shadows. Could he really bring another life into his chaotic world, a life that needed guidance and hope? As he felt the tangled cords of intention and fear wrap around him, he saw Lily's scowl flash in his mind. She was already feeling neglected. Adding a homeless girl into their lives would bring her more hurt, not less. The tension escalated with each breath. The images of neglect and abandonment clashed against the backdrop of ambition. He could either save Mia or salvage his relationship with Lily, but how? Brian stood at a crossroads, as a knot tightened in his stomach. The darkness of neglect loomed overhead, and doubt twisted his resolve. How would he survive the inner turmoil? The guilt of taking on Mia's burden while his own daughter's heart felt distant. Just when Brian thought he could balance it all, a devastating blow at work threatened to rip apart every emerging thread of his life. Would he have the strength to confront the chaos? Or would he surrender to the crushing pressures that demanded he choose sides? Brian stood frozen, the girl's plea echoing in his mind, hanging in the air like the tension thickening around him. He was a man who thrived on challenges. Yet this was a dilemma that tugged at his fundamentally human core, a fusion of instinct and intellect battling for dominance. Walking away felt wrong. Staying presented a staggering array of potential problems that he inhaled sharply, weighing his options. A driver's instinct kicked in, and he scanned the environment, a dump for discarded dreams, much like his own headspace lately. He recalled sleepless nights spent visualizing product launches and crunching numbers, dissecting market trends. His internal negotiation began, each pulse of his heartbeat matching the weight in his chest. Could he live with himself knowing he turned his back on someone who needed help? Emotion and logic clashed violently as Brian's mind darted between vivid images of Lily clambering through the house like a whirlwind, her laughter spilling over every room, and the stark sight of the girl in front of him, utterly alone. He had built a life on the promise of change and innovation. Surely, he had the capability to transform more than just market trends. "Okay, I can help," he breathed, more to himself than to her. In that moment, Brian made a choice rooted in instinct rather than fear. With a confident stride, he knelt beside the girl, meeting her gaze. "What is your name?" "Mia," she replied softly. The way the name fell from her lips struck a chord in him. This wasn't just another charity case. This was a little girl like Lily, full of potential and dreams yet to be realized. Brian extended his hand. "Let us get you somewhere warm." He felt the warmth of urgency surge through him as they walked toward his car, each step forcing him to grapple with uncharted waters. He fumbled with the door's handle and immediately received a rush of doubt. How would he explain Mia's sudden appearance in his life to Lily? Fear clawed at him, manifesting alongside determination. He wanted to shield them both, but protection often meant confronting fears head-on. Didn't he? The ride home was quiet, the air thick with a palpable tension. As if sharing a secret, Mia toyed with the hem of her tattered coat, stealing glances at him. He focused on the road, fighting against the tide of escalating responsibilities threatening to drown him. Their lives were about to intertwine, and each second felt like an impending avalanche of change. What would he say to Lily? Would she understand? The doubt clouded his thoughts, and yet, something more profound stirred within him. Taking Mia into his life could provide the support he secretly craved in his chaotic world. This girl could inspire him, shake him from his complacency, foster a sense of purpose far beyond his spreadsheets and pitches as they pulled into his driveway. Brian felt an exhilarating twist in his chest. For once, maybe he didn't have to be a solo act in this performance of life. He wanted to show Lily that family was about choices, about lifting each other when the world stood still. But before he could articulate his thoughts, the door swung open with Lily standing there, her expression mixing confusion and dismay. "Dad, who is she?" The question wasn't just curiosity. It was laced with the fear of being replaced. Brian felt the weight of her wide eyes piercing through him. In that instant, he stood on the precipice of a decision that felt heavier than any pitch he had faced in the boardroom. Would he be a father who inspired courage in both his children, or would he falter under the weight of their expectations? The moment hung, tremulous, as he swallowed hard, preparing to calmly bridge their two worlds. He knew this would not merely be an introduction, it was the beginning of a journey. The intertwining paths of their lives were about to reshape one another, if only he could find the right words. But even as he began to speak, the sense of impending upheaval was profound, a reality he couldn't escape. Just as he started, a knock echoed through the house, jolting him from his thoughts. The weight of the world surged again as he wondered what else lay on the horizon ready to confront him. Would this knock lead to a new challenge that could dismantle the fragile unity he sought to create? Brian could feel the atmosphere crackling with tension. Lily stood before him, her small frame rigid, her expression a mix of confusion and worry. The uncertainty of a new dynamic pressed against his chest, magnifying the weight of the moment. He had taken the decisive step to bring Mia home, and now, the potential for misunderstanding and heartbreak lingered heavy in the room. "Lily, this is Mia," he began, his voice steady but laced with an underlying urgency. "She needs our help." Brian watched as the emotional gears inside Lily's heart shifted, a process he could easily read, having intertwined lives with her for years. Yet the fear of being cast aside was brewing, evident in the way her brows knitted together with concern. "Why is she here? Why now, Dad?" Lily's voice cracked, a plea chiseled out of protective instinct. She was a perceptive child, a mind that often wrestled with adult complexities. It was one of her defining traits, her uncanny ability to sense when something was amiss. "We're going to help her, just like we would want someone to help us if we were in a tough spot," Brian replied, striving to maintain calmness. Yet, even as he spoke, a gnawing unease gripped him. Was this truly the right thing to do? Could he nurture two vulnerable souls without neglecting either? Mia shifted slightly, her wide, innocent eyes darting between the two. The awkwardness hung in the air like an uninvited guest, making his heart race. He reached for Mia's tiny hand with his own, juxtaposing her fragility against his overwhelming need to take charge and protect. "What is wrong with her?" Lily's tone softened, skepticism melting into genuine concern. "Nothing is wrong with her. We just need to give her some support," Brian emphasized, attempting to rally confidence within himself. He had faced challenging business negotiations, had outwitted competitors, yet here he was, standing in his living room, grappling with the complexities of familial love and compassion. "I don't want to share you, Dad," Lily whispered, her voice a tremor of vulnerability that cut sharply through him. Now, Brian faced the most daunting negotiation of his life, not with clients or investors, but with the emotions of his own daughter. "Lily, you will never have to share my love with anyone. Mia is going to be part of our family because she needs us." He felt his own conviction grow, realizing that this was not just about Mia. This was also about setting an example for Lily, a real-world lesson about empathy and resilience. Would he stumble forward, teaching her that love often expands to include others, or would he let fear dictate their actions? Just then, another knock reverberated through the house, louder and more demanding. It pulled him from his reverie, directing his focus away from the interplay between him and his daughter. A cold jolt of anxiety coursed through him. Its implications were unsettling. Who could that be? Brian wondered, apprehension flickering. This turn of events was not in his carefully orchestrated plan. Could it be a friend stopping by unexpectedly, or was it someone from Mia's past? He turned toward the door, a knot in his gut tightening. Fear coiled within him, but deeper than that a sense of discovery bubbled forth. With every uncertainty that loomed on the horizon, these moments tested his resolve, challenging him to evolve as both a father and a man. "Stay here," he instructed both girls softly as he approached the door, each step feeling heavier than the last. What awaited him on the other side could shift the course of their new lives irrevocably. Would this intrusion bolster his resolve, or would it threaten to unravel everything he was working to build? With a deep breath, he clasped the door handle, prepared to face whatever lay behind it. Brian's heart raced as he leaned into the door, bracing himself for the revelation that awaited him. The second his fingers curled around the cold metal handle, a surge of adrenaline coursed through his veins. He knew that whatever lay beyond this threshold could challenge not only the fragile equilibrium he had just begun to establish, but also his understanding of what family truly meant. The door creaked open, revealing a figure cloaked in the dim light of the hallway. It was a woman, her features partially obscured by the shadows, but Brian immediately recognized the intensity of fear etched across her face. She wore a soaked jacket, clearly having braved the rain in a desperate rush. "Brian," she exclaimed, her voice barely above a whisper, as if she were afraid to disturb the sanctity of the moment. "Emily?" Shock washed over him, recognizing his former neighbor, someone he never thought he would see again. What could possibly have brought her here at this hour? When he last saw her, she was struggling with her own challenges, an echo of chaos that had sent her spiraling away from their circle. The memories came flooding back, momentary glimpses of late-night conversations that had ebbed into silence, a world of shared understanding that had dissipated. "Please, I need your help," Emily pleaded, glancing nervously behind her as if expecting someone to emerge from the dark. The urgency in her tone sent an electric charge through him. He felt vulnerable, but more than that, he felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. "Come in," he finally managed, stepping aside to let her in. He shut the door behind her, sealing them off from the elements, yet enveloping the room in thick tension. Brian glanced back to Lily, whose eyes mirrored his own confusion. "Who is she?" Lily's voice cut through the silence, her gaze darting back and forth between the two adults. "This is Emily. She needs our help," Brian explained. The knot in his gut twisted further. He was now not only standing for Mia, but also open to rekindling a chapter of fear and distrust that he had thought closed. "Is she with Mia?" Lily asked, her brows furrowing in concern. "No, it's not that," he responded quickly, sensing his daughter was struggling to grapple with the complexity unfolding before her. "What's wrong?" Lily pressed, her protective instincts surfacing fiercely. Emily took a shaky breath, clearly on the verge of breaking down. "I'm being followed. Someone's looking for me, and I thought if I came here, I could find safety." Brian's mind raced. This was not part of his plan. He had hoped to mold a semblance of stability for Mia and Lily, and now another layer of turmoil was unfurling in front of him. He hesitated, wanting to shield his daughter from the implications of Emily's words, but he also felt an unforeseen pull toward offering help. "We can't do this," he thought, but countered the impulse with a firm resolve. He was not just a father, but a man capable of confronting the deepest shadows faced by those who crossed his path. Lily, it's okay. We'll figure this out. But I need you to trust me. His daughter studied him, searching for certainty amidst the encroaching chaos. Emily's fear-infused presence reminded him of the vulnerabilities he masked under a veneer of control in his life. Could he face both Mia's fragile state and the potential fallout of Emily's arrival? The realization was overwhelming. He was now tasked not only with fostering healing in Mia, but also with navigating the storm brewing around Emily. Why did you come here instead of seeking someone else? Brian found himself asking, the question hanging in the room like smoke. Because I remembered you cared, she replied, a vulnerability spilling from her eyes. The acknowledgement struck him, revitalizing a part of him that was willing to confront his own fears as he dissected her words. The reaction spiraled within him, a mix of concern, protectiveness, and an almost selfish desire to find purpose amidst cracks forming in his carefully constructed world. Let us sit down and talk, he suggested, gesturing with a firmness that belied his internal turmoil. He knew the night was far from over, and as anxiety tightened its hold, he understood this confrontation could either destroy or fortify his fragile sense of family. That he moved toward the couch, a temporary sanctum amid a brewing storm. The walls around him felt both constrictive and alive with possibility. The path forward was unknown, but one truth crystallized: the moment had come to face the uncharted territories of empathy, trust, and hidden dangers of the past. What lay ahead felt daunting, yet he sensed that discovering the layers of his own strength was necessary for their survival. With Emily's presence becoming a force of reckoning, he steeled himself for what revelations each of them would soon unveil. With each passing moment, their stories were on the brink of intertwining, pushing Brian to examine the very fabric that would hold them together or unravel them entirely. What revelations entwined with the shadows following Emily into his home? Brian sank into the couch, letting the tension in his body dissipate slightly as he faced Emily, whose demeanor was a stark contrast to the person he once knew. She had always exuded a calmness, a quiet resilience that made her struggles seem distant, but now desperation clung to her like a second skin. The cold, wet fabric of her jacket only amplified the weight of the fears she carried. "What happened?" he asked, his voice steady but laced with concern. The words felt heavy, and in them, he could sense the looming confrontation with not just Emily's issues, but also his own buried hesitations about becoming entangled in someone else's chaos again. "I can't explain everything right now, but someone from my past has come back to haunt me," she stammered, her eyes darting to the window, as if expecting an intruder to crash through at any moment. "I thought I had moved on, that I had it all together. But now I don't know what to do." Brian's instincts kicked in. He was the protector, the stabilizing force for Mia and Lily, but Emily's admission unearthed a contradiction. Was he truly capable of extending himself beyond his immediate family? The echoes of his past failures swirled at the edges of his mind, threatening to grip him with doubt. "Do you have any idea why they are looking for you?" He leaned forward, a mix of urgency and curiosity pushing him to delve deeper into her situation. She hesitated, as if the truth was a layer she feared could unravel everything. "It's complicated, and I'm afraid," she caught herself, realizing how weak her words sounded. "I just thought if I came to you, I could find some kind of relief." Brian studied her, recognizing a familiar sadness, a reflection of his own feelings about Mia's situation. Here they were, two people tethered by their pasts, with unsorted emotions swirling around them. He weighed his options, his mind racing through past experiences and current responsibilities. Could he genuinely help, or was he merely setting himself up for more turmoil? The sound of rain tapping against the window mirrored the storm brewing inside him. "This isn't just about you, Emily. I have a daughter to protect, and just hear me out." Emily interrupted, her eyes pleading for understanding. "This isn't what I wanted to drag you into, but I'm scared. I don't want to put you or your family in danger, but I don't have anywhere else to turn." Her admission struck him, hitting at a core aspect of his identity, his struggle with vulnerability. He was a father first, but deep down, he was also a man who wanted to stand firm against uncertainty. He glanced at Lily, who was still watching them closely, her young mind absorbing the gravity of the situation. It's okay, Lily, he said softly, trying to comfort his daughter, who had no reason to comprehend the complexities unfolding before her. With a newfound determination, he turned back to Emily. I can't just ignore your plea for help, but we need to be careful. I need to understand the full scope of what you're dealing with. The tension in the room thickened as Emily took a deep breath, preparing to reveal the chaos of her life that had found a way to interrupt his carefully constructed reality. Brian braced himself for the details that could shatter the fragile balance he had fought to maintain. As he listened, uncertainty gnawed at him, but so did an ember of resilience and awareness of the power he had to steer events with decisive actions. He had transformed challenges into opportunities before, and this situation felt similar but uniquely different. The stakes were higher, the risks more personal. The line separating stability and chaos was what he now stood upon. When Emily finally opened up, her story cascaded into tales of loss and betrayal, painting her past in colors of desperation, revealing truths he had never anticipated. Their shared connections deepened the emotional stakes, striking a chord in him that resonated far beyond mere obligation. What if I fail to protect the ones I love? The thought pierced his mind, a haunting reminder of what was at stake. As Emily's words wrapped around him, Brian felt an unknown strength stirring within, urging him to confront the chaos head-on. But the fierceness of impending decisions loomed, threatening to push him further into uncharted territory. Emily, I can't promise everything will be all right, but I will help you navigate this, he said, the affirmation solidifying his resolve. But even as he spoke, doubts lingered in the back of his mind. What if this choice led him deeper into a darkness he couldn't escape? His heart clenched at the uncertain path ahead. Time was pressing, and the chilling thought that someone was still pursuing Emily lingered in the air like an indelible mark. But as the intensity of the moment peaked, he felt a flicker of conviction perhaps, just perhaps, helping Emily could teach him more about himself than he ever imagined. The night stretched on, and unearthly revelations were poised on the brink of unfurling. The deeper they delved into her plight, the more Brian realized he might have to face his own past alongside hers. What truths would come to light as they uncoded this web of fear and connection? Would this catalyst spark his own journey of discovery or lead them both into further peril? Brian allowed the weight of Emily's revelations to settle within him, each detail a thread tugging him toward a life he hadn't anticipated. The rain continued its relentless rhythm outside, a constant reminder of the uncertainty that shrouded their conversation. A deep inhale filled his lungs, and as he exhaled, he steeled himself for the decisions ahead. He could either shield himself from the tumult surrounding Emily or step in, not just as a friend, but as a potential savior in her narrative. Tell me everything you can, he urged, his voice more assertive, the resolution deepening in his core. I need to understand the threats you're facing. What exactly did you do that brought this past back to you? Emily took a moment, gathering her thoughts, her hands trembling as she held onto the fabric of her jacket. It's someone I thought I had escaped for good, a former partner. Things turned dark, and I left it all behind. But they resurfaced, and I thought I was safe. I've changed. I've become someone different, but they know how to find me. The gravity of her words hung like a storm cloud in the room, and Brian's instincts urged him to protect. Is there a reason they are targeting you now? His brain raced through playbooks of crisis management. Did he need to go to the authorities? What measures could he take to ensure Emily and Lily were safe? I don't know. The last time I heard from them, it was a threat. I thought it was just a scare tactic, but now she glanced toward the window again, her eyes reflecting ghosts of the past. I can't endanger you, or Lily. Emily, he interrupted firmly, though the edge in his voice was unintended. You are already here. We need to face this together. The stark realization hit him. This wasn't just about Emily. It was about taking a stand in his life for what mattered. Lily, in her innocence, clutched her teddy bear tighter, oblivious to the storm brewing above her head. Brian glanced at her, a profound shift occurring in the way he perceived the gravity of his role. It wasn't merely about protecting her from external threats, it was about cultivating resilience, facing fears head-on, and modeling strength in the face of adversity. As Emily prepared to divulge more, he reminded himself of the protective instincts that had been central to his identity. But now, He was faced with the uncomfortable thought that guarding his own heart might create barriers to true connection. "Emily," he said, allowing a softness to seep into his tone, "you're not a burden. Opening up takes courage. It shows I'm not the only one overcoming fears." For the first time, he saw a flicker of a smile behind her tears, a fleeting recognition that propelled her to open up the dam of secrets she had held on to for too long. "We were both so different before. You've come so far from who you were at that point in our lives, haven't you?" His mind flashed to moments of self-doubt that once defined him. The fear of failure, the weight of expectations all felt like chains binding him to a past he was eager to escape. "And I'm still learning, Emily. I'm still redefining myself and facing challenges just like you." Her grip on reality rattled as she began to share how much her transformation meant to her, the hurdles she had cleared, and the life lessons that had reshaped her thought patterns. Brian's heart raced, each story intertwining with memories of his own failures, business setbacks, personal losses. "Maybe this is fate," he ventured, more to himself than her. "Maybe I need this as much as you do." The phrase rolled off his tongue, igniting a new fire within him. This journey with Emily wasn't merely reactive, it was proactive growth. The notion that he could be a catalyst in someone else's healing ignited a sense of purpose. Taking a bold step, he asked, "What are we going to do next? How can I help you prepare, maybe even stand up against them?" Her eyes widened, and within them, he saw a flicker of hope glimmer amid despair. "You're willing to help, even with what lies ahead?" "Absolutely," he affirmed, feeling the rush of adrenaline, propelling him into uncharted waters. His direction had shifted not just toward protecting those he loved, but toward embracing vulnerability and finding strength in unity against fear. Just then, a loud crack of thunder exploded outside, shattering the stillness. He jerked, adrenaline coursing as dread hung heavily in the air. Maybe it was an omen. Perhaps it was a reminder of the chaotic storm they were about to navigate together. With renewed determination knitting them closer, Brian faced his own narrative once more. The dark corners of doubt lingered, but they no longer held dominion over him. He had leveraged now shared experiences, whispers of wisdom that guided his path ahead, that as they prepared to confront the escalating threat. He realized the most powerful discovery he could make was not the sharpness of his tactics, but the depth of his empathy. Could he find the balance between protection and personal growth amidst the storm brewing between them? Just as silence fell after the thunder, a text notification chimed from Emily's phone, drawing their attention. The faintest tremor of fear fluttered through Brian's chest. What news would it bring? In that tense moment, the stakes were now more elevated. What if the past was more persistent than either of them had anticipated? Brian's fingers twitched as he watched Emily unlock her phone, the tension in the room thickening with each moment that passed. Beneath the surface of calm resolve, anxiety coursed through him. He could sense the volatility of the situation. They were on the precipice of something that could change everything. Emily's expression shifted, a mixture of dread and uncertainty. "It's from a number I haven't seen in a long time," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Open it," Brian urged, his heart racing. The outcome could alter their lives in ways they couldn't yet fathom. He felt tethered not just to Emily's fate, but also to his own burgeoning sense of purpose. As she read the message, color drained from her face. "It's them," she finally managed, voice trembling. "They're back." The reality of her situation struck Brian hard. This was a defining moment that tested not only Emily's resilience, but also his own evolving identity. Until now, he had moved through life almost superficially, skimming the surface of challenges, but now he found himself standing on firm ground amid turmoil, ready to delve into the depths of fear and uncertainty. "What do they want?" he asked, intent on keeping a level head. Emily took a deep breath, gathering strength from within. "It says they want to meet. They know that I'm here. I can't let them anywhere near Lily." As urgency built inside him, Brian's analytical mind kicked into gear. Meeting with a manipulative, potentially dangerous figure could spiral into chaos. He thought about his previous life. Choices made out of convenience or fear were no longer acceptable. "We need a plan," he stated firmly. Emily nodded, the resolve remolding her features. "I want to confront them. It's time I take control of this." A surge of admiration mixed with apprehension rose within Brian. Here was Emily, a person trying to reclaim her narrative and cast aside the shadows that haunted her. But could he share that same strength? Doubts flickered in the back of his mind. He wanted to be her warrior, but in doing so, would he also be putting Lily at risk? Let us do this then, he assured her, feeling the need to bolster their shared courage. But we have to strategize first. It's essential that we don't go in blind. They spent the next hour discussing contingencies and tactics, writing down questions Brian thought they should ask, and deciding on safe locations to meet. Each idea they put forth wrapped them deeper in a cocoon of mutual trust. Brian marveled at how confronting fear was catalyzing transformation, not just for Emily, but for him as well. He had learned the power of vulnerability and connection, yet a gnawing thought disquieted him. What if this confrontation unveiled not only Emily's weaknesses, but also his own? He had cultivated a narrative around his personal defeat, and now it seemed intertwined with someone else's. They packed their bags, ready to construct a safety plan and head out. A realization dawned upon Brian. This was much more than a protective instinct. This was a full-fledged journey of self-discovery. In deciding to stand alongside Emily, he was pushing against the boundaries of his own fears, allowing that tension to refine his character. Whatever happens, we stick together, he said, grasping her hand, a lifeline woven from shared vulnerabilities and burgeoning hope. We can't let them define who we are any longer. With a newfound sense of purpose coursing through him, Brian prepared to step into the unknown. Yet, looming in the background was uncertainty. How far would he fall if he failed? As they reached the door, the wind howled like the past, beckoning them back, tempting him with the safety of darkness. But there was a brighter path ahead, illuminated by the courage to choose freedom and connection. Just as they braced themselves to step into the tempest, Emily's phone chimed once more, a new message demanding their immediate attention. Brian's heart dropped. Would it bring clarity, or would it plunge them deeper into chaos? Either way, they were hurtling toward an encounter that would force them to reckon with shadows far darker than either had considered. Would they emerge altered and stronger, or would it leave irreparable scars? Brian's grip on Emily's hand tightened as he glanced at her phone. The chill of uncertainty seeped into the room, wrapping itself around them like a fog. The latest message flickered on the screen, casting a ghostly light across Emily's face. He inhaled sharply, both curious and apprehensive. Open it, he urged again, half expecting that this next revelation would be pivotal. As Emily read, her brow furrowed deeper. It's a threat. To Lily, she said, her voice clipped. Adrenaline surged through Brian. The stakes were becoming alarmingly tangible. How far were they willing to go to protect what was most important? The minutes dragged on as they sat in silence, the world outside continuing without them. Each tick of the clock seemed louder and more insistent, resonating with the urgency growing within Brian. Confronting the ghosts of Emily's past was becoming their shared mission, and in that moment, Brian felt the complexity of a newfound resolve. The challenge wasn't just external but deeply personal. The fear that once governed his life was evolving into fierce determination. We need to think strategically here. This isn't just about you anymore. Lily is involved. I will help you protect her, he declared, a palpable strength rising from somewhere within him. Emily's eyes met his, a mixture of gratitude and vulnerability shimmering in the depths. They had forged a bond in a matter of hours, one that diminished the shadows each of them carried. Yet, in embracing this shared purpose, Brian contemplated the essence of his own identity. The impulse to act was compelling, but he also recognized an underlying hesitation. Was he truly equipped for this fight? Do you really think we can take them on? Emily asked, her voice wavering. I need to believe we can, he replied, determination lacing his words. But we have to be smart. Do you have any contacts in your past, anyone who can help us? As Emily began to recount her history, revealing snippets of her life before they met, Brian listened intently. Each detail exposed a world layered with complexities he had previously been unaware of. He was witnessing her transformation not only as a survivor, but as a fighter, reclaiming the narrative that once defined her. And it hit him. This wasn't merely about her. It was about resilience and awakening, not just for Emily, but for him as well. His mind raced with possibilities, tactics, strategies, alliances. They could leverage what she knew, pulling from the courage that existed in confronting the unknown. But amid the excitement, a nagging thought taunted him. What did he truly bring to this mission beyond emotional support? Was hiding beneath Emily's strength a form of his own? The moment passed as she brought forth the name of an old acquaintance who might prove useful, igniting a flicker of hope within him. Let us reach out to them, Brian said, both to anchor the strategy and to ground himself in action. But we must be cautious. Moving quickly doesn't equate to reckless. We need every advantage we can get. As their conversation delved deeper, Brian started to identify his own strengths in ways he hadn't before. He realized that his analytical mind, sharpened through years of avoidance, was now a formidable asset. The insight he brought to their discussions proved vital questions that illuminated blind spots and strategies that explored multiple outcomes. For the first time, he understood how confronting the past and embracing uncertainty intersected with personal empowerment. With the decision made to contact Emily's former acquaintance, the air was charged with an invigorating mix of anticipation and apprehension. They grabbed their coats, bolstered with a sense of purpose but still tethered to the vulnerability of uncertainty. Just as they stepped outside, the gust of wind strummed against their skin, signaling the approach of a storm, one not just of the sky, but also within their lives. They were moving toward a confrontation not merely to defend against shadows, but to redefine their future. In that charged moment, Brian looked at Emily. This is the beginning, he said firmly, feeling the weight of his resolve. But prepare yourself. We're standing on the brink of something that could either break us or strengthen us. As they moved forward into the storm, a sense of urgency propelled them. They were inextricably linked now, two souls entwined in a battle against the forces that sought to tear them apart. But lurking beneath was another voice, growing louder, the knowledge that they might emerge not just altered but empowered. The phone buzzed once more in Brian's pocket, the vibration a haunting reminder that the past wasn't done with them yet. Would this message be the final warning, a harbinger of impending chaos, or a lifeline woven with the promise of clarity? Brian's heart raced as the phone buzzed again. He hesitated momentarily, the weight of the world pressing down on him. Emily could sense his unease, and she tilted her head, a silent question lingering in her eyes. Was he prepared to confront whatever awaited them in this new message? Closing his eyes, he allowed himself a breath before pulling out the phone. The screen glowed with an unexpected urgency, showing a new text, a nugget of information from Emily's past. It's from Steve, he announced, the name dropping heavily between them. This was the acquaintance who could either be an ally or an obstacle. The moment felt pivotal. What does it say? Emily pressed, her voice laced with apprehension. It says he is willing to meet. He wants to talk, Brian replied. Does he know about everything? Emily's question hung in the air, fraught with worry. I don't think so, but it's clear he wants something. We need to tread carefully, he cautioned, aware that Steve's motivations could run deep, possibly intertwining with the threats they faced. They agreed to meet Steve at a quiet diner on the outskirts of town, a place where the anonymity of busy lives might cloak their intentions. As they drove through the rain-slicked streets, a wave of doubt washed over Brian. Thoughts of the past raced through his mind, memories of persistent self-doubt and feelings of inadequacy. Here he was, stepping out of his comfort zone to take a proactive stance in this battle. But was he truly prepared for this confrontation? You're quiet, Emily observed, her gaze fixed on the road ahead. Thinking too much? I guess so, Brian admitted, the admission oddly liberating. I'm just trying to figure out how I fit into this. I mean, are my strategies enough? And what if I fail you? His honesty hung in the air, laden with vulnerability. Emily turned to him, her expression fierce yet tender. You won't fail me, Brian. We're in this together. Just by being here, you're already more involved than you realize. As they parked and stepped into the diner, Brian could feel his pulse quickening. The small, cluttered space smelled of coffee and frying food, a contrast to the urgency spiraling in his mind. Spotting Steve in a booth at the far end, he felt a swell of apprehension. The man was lean, his expression unreadable. Was he an ally or a wolf in sheep's clothing? They approached cautiously. Steve, Emily said, attempting to mask her tension, thanks for meeting us. Of course, he replied with a tilt of his head. You both seem well. The way he said, "well," sent a chill through Brian. It implied hidden meanings. "Let us cut to the chase," Brian interjected, leaning forward, his voice steady despite the fluttering in his chest. "What do you know about the threats against Emily and Lily?" Steve's brows knitted together, his facade wavering. "I know more than you think. But first, I need to know, are you really willing to do whatever it takes to protect your family?" The question reverberated through Brian, striking at the core of his newfound courage. He felt his resolve harden. "We're ready to fight against anything that comes our way," he declared firmly. "Then you might find this surprising." Steve paused, seeming to weigh his words. Brian felt a protective instinct surge. He was not about to let anyone manipulate their situation further. Brian's instincts flared as he scrutinized Steve. What could he reveal? Would this meeting be the turning point they desperately needed? The murmur of surrounding conversations faded as Steve leaned closer, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "It's not just threats to your girl. This runs deeper. People want to make sure Emily stays quiet about her past." Brian's mind raced as he processed the implications. This was no longer just about a threat. It was a fight to reclaim a voice lost in shadows. With every exchanged word, Brian felt the weight of his own transformation. He was evolving from a passive participant into a decisive player in this fight, a revelation that stirred both fear and exhilaration within him as they prepared to delve deeper. Brian's thoughts raced ahead, recalibrating his sense of purpose. Would the revelations they uncovered at this table both empower them against the threats closing in and redefine Emily's narrative? Tomorrow would test not just their tactics, but also their unyielding determination. Would they emerge triumphant, or was there an unknown force lurking in the shadows, ready to push them further down the rabbit hole? Brian stood at the threshold of a new chapter, reflecting on how far he had come since first encountering Mia. The little girl had awakened something dormant within him, a desire to embrace vulnerability and offer support where it was needed the most. The whirlwind of confusion and fear that had shadowed his life was now intertwined with purpose and clarity. The resolution to face the threats surrounding Emily solidified Brian's commitment to his newfound family. He had promised to protect them, but more importantly, this commitment extended to embrace change itself. Each step into the stormy unknown was a testament to his transformation, no longer just a CEO focused on numbers, but a father determined to redefine what family meant. In the days following their decisive meeting with Steve, Brian took a proactive role in strategizing their next steps. The fear of the past threatened to consume them, yet they fortified their spirits with hope. Crisis management meetings replaced boardroom negotiations as they navigated the turbulent waters together. Brian was learning that leadership extended beyond profit margins. It flourished in nurturing the bonds that tied them together. With each conversation, doubt crumbled bit by bit. He watched Mia play with Lily, their laughter echoing in the hallways, and it dawned on him the real achievement wasn't just about confronting Emily's past, but also about fostering resilience within his own growing family. The ability to give love and receive it in return fortified his sense of identity as a father. The idea that vulnerability could lead to power was revolutionary to him. As they prepared for the confrontation with the past, Brian took the initiative to empower Lily and Mia. He involved them in creating a plan, teaching them about courage, strategy, and defining their boundaries. Empowered by their input, Brian saw their confidence swell. They were becoming warriors in their own right. His victory was not merely in the form of a successful defense against danger, but in cultivating an environment of strength and support. The day of confrontation arrived with ominous clouds threatening to unleash a storm. Yet, the resolve within the small gathering was unwavering. With Emily at his side, Brian initiated the meeting with those who had perpetuated her past, fueled by a sense of duty and intention. This was a divergence from previous encounters in his life. He came not to win an argument, but to reclaim a voice. As tension mounted, Brian exhibited a newfound confidence. He articulated the stakes, not just for Emily but for every vulnerable soul who had ever felt silenced. "We are here to lay the past to rest," he declared with a steadiness that reverberated through the room. The confrontation served as both a catharsis and a rallying cry. The weight lifted, and with it came affirmation. The clarity of purpose blossomed within him. The ordeal concluded, not with defeated hearts but with the liberation of truth. The threats had dissipated, and what remained was a profound understanding of empathy and connection. Brian stood a little taller. Recognizing his own metamorphosis, he had conquered not only the external fears confronting Emily, but also the inner battles that had long restrained him. Reflecting on the chain of events, Brian felt gratitude ripple through him. Mia had shown him the transformative power of empathy. Supporting Emily had forever altered his outlook on family. Love was destined to be shared, a lesson that he would impart to Lily and Mia equally. He had emerged stronger, shining not as a lone figure, but as a cornerstone in a new formation of family. Brian smiled at the sunlight breaking through the clouds, illuminating the world around him. They had faced shadows together and emerged victorious. His heart swelled with a satisfaction that confirmed his growth. He had achieved an authentic sense of identity, grounded in love, relentless resilience, and cherished connections. This was his family, now dynamic, ever-evolving, and above all, weathering storms hand in hand. Now is the time for you to take action. You need to subscribe now to the channel to witness more incredible transformations and emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and support the content you love. Comment below with your reactions to Brian's extraordinary journey and theories about what comes next. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness the power of personal growth and overcoming darkness. Don't wait even one more second to share the inspiration.